Hi everyone, and welcome back to Book Chat. My name is Tiernan.
I'm Lauren.
And I'm Reagan.
And I'm Sasha.
And today we are going to be discussing the importance of plot. There is so much to talk about when it comes to different ways authors can go about their endings and the conflicts that we read about so often in fantasy books and in contemporary books, and so many unique differences between them and in our own lives.
Yeah.
Lauren, who's your friend?
Oh, this is my boyfriend. He only has eyes for me though, so.
Yeah,
Hands off, Sasha.
Wow. I think that we should just jump right into talking about plot-based storylines and character-based storylines, because plot drives the story forward, but so do the characters.
Right.
And something that I had, Lindsay and I had lots of not difficulty with, but we had to really make sure that we both had equal amounts of both. Is that we want the characters to be engaging, but we also need the plot to be very important, because the plot, for me, is a huge part of the novel, and it's what makes everything very interesting. But so do the characters. They're very equal things that have to do with books. If you don't have very interesting characters, and the plot can kind of fail because of that. Because it can be a great plot, but if the characters are bland, I think that we all lose interest. And we just want to get to the end, because then we get to finish the book and mark it off on Goodreads. I know that for multiple character points of views in novels, I have that in Zenith, and we have 6 character points of views, and it's a lot of characters. We made sure to make sure the plot would not fail because of that many points of views, because it easily can happen when they're so dominating over the plot. So what do you guys think about that, and how do you go about reading books that have maybe a little bit more important characters than the plot, or vice versa?
Yeah.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the story itself and what the story itself is trying to accomplish, and I think genre has something to do with that. Or just what the author is trying to say with each book, which I think is good, because we're not just reading the same linear plot each time. I think when you have something like a contemporary novel, it makes a lot more sense for it to be character driven.
And I would say romance too.
Right.
Character driven.
Yeah, but there's also some where I would say fantasy is definitely traditionally plot driven. There are some really interesting character focused fantasy novels. I would even argue something like The Name of the Wind, which is one of the most famous, expansive fantasy books of all time, is very much almost character forward in its plot as well, which I think is really cool, because we're following the same character throughout his entire life. So I think it's about finding a balance and what the author is trying to accomplish with their story, which I like both, and I like when they're combined, I like them separately, so it just kind of depends on the situation.
I think it's perfect and beautiful when you can have both at the same time. If you look at a story and ask, what is the big question here? Is the big question will the town defeat the aliens? Or is it, will this character get over this personal hurdle that they're experiencing while the aliens are invading the town? And if you can have both of that and have both of them sort of progress together, that is such a beautiful thing in a film or in a book. Anything.
Because it's really boring to just watch one character be one thing, not having an arc whatsoever. And even villains and superheroes, they all need that arc to make their character dynamic. And you also need the climax within the plot, or else the story falls flat.
Something that I just want to bring up really quickly is Harry Potter, because I think that J.K. Rowling does the plot so well, because there's different plots in each book. Each one has a very important theme to it, but there's a subplot beneath it, which is Voldemort and his rise to power, and how he wants to regain this power. And that's at the very beginning of the series, it's kind of very subplot. You know about Voldemort, but nothing really has happened. But it keeps on accelerating with each book as it advances. And there's still this main plot of the book, the Sorcerer's Stone, and, all that stuff. But there's this main plot that is gonna be blown up in the very last book. I find that's so interesting, and I love subplots and how they become the main plot at the end.
like most books and like movies, you always have something going on, and then while that's happening, you come back over here. Like in Sage Alexander, you know, they're in like God space and all this stuff, but then they still have the story back in the real world with Leah and his grandpa and Ronan and stuff like that. So I feel like you have to have that dynamic, and when they come together in the end, it just makes like the perfect bow on the story.
I wanted to say something I also find interesting when it comes to plots is generally when we think of plots, we think of it kind of like in a linear growth. You know, we have our exposition, we have our rising to climax, and then, you know, our falling action. But I really enjoy when authors kind of switch the order of that. You know, they can start with the end and then we get to the beginning, because I think it kind of changes the dynamic of the story. There's a different level of urgency, there's a different type of storytelling. Or sometimes when they put multiple points of views, maybe from past to present at the same time. So you're like having parts of the climax but you don't understand what's going on, and then you switch back to the beginning, then you're at the end, and then it's piecing all this together. So I think it's nice sometimes when there's not just that traditional linear plot line that's happening, it's actually quite jumbled, which can just offer a completely different reading experience.
And I think who does that really well is like James Dashner. Like he had this whole entire plot line of like the Maze Runner, but then he went back to way before, and you actually got like the explanation in the kill order of like what actually went on, because like the whole entire series you're like, where is this coming from?
And even by the third book, you were still learning those things, and it ended up being something completely different from what the Maze Runner as a standalone was.
And somebody that I think does plot phenomenally, because she has so many series rooted in the same world as Cassandra Clare, because she started off with City Bones, and little details in City Bones that you don't really notice right away get implemented in like 2 series beyond that book. And I just think, as me, after writing my own book, I'm just like, how does she do it? What black magic does she implement into this novel to be able to do that and be able to carry it through to like a totally different series but takes place in the same world? It's the mindset of the author is a huge component in what goes into a good plot. And you know, I think that one of my favorite things when reading a author's work is that I read their first book and I think it's like good or great, whichever one, but I see the author go from good to phenomenal. I see the you know, the growth of the author, not just the characters of the plot, but the growth of the writing, and I think that the writing really also is a great component in a novel with the plot and everything, because without good writing, everything else can fall.
Well, there's also the other side of that too, is where you can have one great first novel and then they turn it into multiple books, but it starts, you know, getting less declining almost, and like less interesting. Is there any books that come to mind?
Well, I think sometimes, well, I don't know if I want to like trash any books necessarily.
No,
but I think sometimes what happens is it's like they have a really great idea in the first book and then they try to stretch that plot too far.
Or add on to the series because it was successful or something.
Right. So then sometimes there's series that are like have a very successful first book, and then they try to turn it into a trilogy, but they're like, wait, let's add a 4th book.
Because they start getting pressure to continue it.
It's just like, and then it gets stretched too thin.
And some like not books like books to movies that try to do that. Like the Divergent with like Allegiant, they try to split it into 2 movies, but actually ended up making one.
Don't even get that far.
I don't know
the whole 3rd book, but hey, I just feel like this is a bit of chit chat. So
Chit chat.
Hey, and welcome to Chit Chat. My name is Ariel from the channel Ariel Bassett, and like you, oh my god, I love books. Today we're going to be talking about the importance of plot. Now, there are 2 things that I can really think of why plot is so important. Now, the first one is fun. Listen, at the end of the day, I want to read a book that's super fun, that I'm so invested in, that I really care about, that takes me on a wild ride. A great plot helps you power through, has you flipping those pages to find out what's gonna happen next. But the other reason, and maybe the reason I think is even more interesting, is how it pushes the characters. Now, I love character development. I love seeing a character grow and change and adapt to new surroundings, and a great way to do that is to have a character react to a plot. If you have, for example, a character just sitting in a room, you're not gonna learn much about that person. However, if you have a meteor strike through the window, how is the character going to react? Are they going to panic and flail? Well, now we know about their personality. Are they gonna call the police right away? Are they gonna call for help? Now we know more about them. Is their first instinct to run outside like a brave warrior and strike down alien foes? Well, now we know we have a hero on our hands. Let us know what you think about the importance of plot, and thanks so much for watching.
Bring in the dance lobsters! Now that we were talking about pots, why don't we do a fun game? So, bring in the dancing lobsters!
I was called.
Oh, thank you. And can you also bring in the dancing shark, the left one?
I was summoned once more.
Thank
you. And goodbye.
Bye. So this is how the game is gonna work. So we're gonna pull like a thing out of here. We have like objects in here, and then we also have words in here. So we're gonna like alternate. We're gonna create a story with a plot line, a climax, and like a solution.
All right.
Right?
This sounds. We'll see how this goes.
All right, you wanna start us off, Sasha?
Sure. So do I pick from here first?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're gonna say like a couple sentences, and then you're gonna build on.
Oh, so it's kind of like we're gonna go down. Okay, I played this before.
Okay.
I love
Okay. So it's like we build like a string.
Together.
Okay. So it says, should I incorporate this into the sentence I say? So it says, should I incorporate this into the sentence I say?
Yes.
The kingdom of unbelievable is a place full of mysterious things that disappear every night.
All right. One day, our main character Annabelle woke up with a fin.
Oh.
Her legs disappeared.
Oh no!
So she woke up with a fin because supernatural king of disaster had come into her kingdom.
Oh man.
Oh man.
And he said, I used to keep my special locket in this case, and until I get it back, you won't get your legs.
No!
So one day a witch came by and said, I have a shortcut that you could take in order to gain your legs and your freedom. If you eat this cupcake, you will be able to have your wish granted.
Don't fall for it!
But then unfortunately, she stumbled upon a sword in that cupcake, and then she had very bad indigestion.
Ooh. So because she had indigestion, she found this lamp on her journey to the sea and rubbed it to have great bowel movements.
Lost at sea, she was faced with a choice. To continue the journey, or to apply the powder of death.
Oh! And so, she had to make this choice. But first she had to consult with the Queen of Dreams in order to see where her future may lie.
Oh!
Oh, it's the queen!
So after consulting with the Queen of Dreams, she went on a long, mythical, and very boring journey. And at the end, she got her legs back, as you can see, and the people made a beautiful statue of her to commemorate her very beautiful legs. The end.
Way to shoot us through Act 2.
Yeah. Well, thanks guys so much for watching. We really hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to click the subscribe button down there. Leave a comment on a fun story you would like to create, and give us a big thumbs up. Come back next week, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.